Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the video where I find out what my favourite episode of Series 2 of Supernatural is by pitting episode against episode. What do you prefer, a slow dancing alien or a creepy clown that you invite into your bedroom? Do you prefer crying at a werewolf that's just fallen in love and has to get killed? Or a ghost that finds out she's been dead for 15 years? Let's find out by jumping into my video where we put episode against episode of Series 2 of Supernatural against each other. I did this for Series 1, so there's a link down below if you haven't watched it. If you've not watched the video, please check it out, and let's jump into Season 2. Okay, here we go. This is my bracket fight for Season 2. I took advice after doing Series 1, where with Series 1, I did it in order. I pitted Episode 1 against Episode 2, and Episode 3 against Episode 4, and so on. But I did get a suggestion to mix it up by randomising it, so that's what I did. I haven't looked at this list yet. I just put all 22 pictures in and randomised it, so let's jump into it. The very first match is Heart versus Playthings. So Heart is obviously the heartbreaking story where Sam falls in love with a lady who has become a victim of a werewolf attack. She turns into a werewolf herself, and they discover that there is no cure. There was a potential cure of killing the person that sired her, but that didn't actually work. So they were left with no choice but to shoot her and kill her, and it was down to Sam to do that. This was a sad episode. It was really unique as well, in that it spent a long time with just Sam and I think she was called Madison in her apartment, just talking and falling in love. I mean, I know saying in love is a long way to go, but I feel like they were falling in love. They clearly cared about each other, but when it came to the fact that he had to kill her, he wanted to do it. He felt like he was the right person to do the job, and it was just really sad. Nobody wants to do that, and watching him and also Dean crying at the end was very emotional. Playthings was creepy as titties. There was like a creepy dollhouse, and it looked like maybe the dolls were moving around and all this weird stuff was going on. What it essentially turned out to be was that the little girl, who's what we assumed was a sister for most of the episode, turned out to be her imaginary friend. And it was really well done because you'd always assumed that she was just the sister that was just there, and you never saw her without him. When you discovered that it was an imaginary friend, it was like a really shocking moment, because the mum always referred to the imaginary friend as well. So just discovering that they were not real was crazy. In terms of what's my favourite, it's hard. Again, I'm going to say this a lot in this video, but this is hard to say because they're so different. One was emotionally devastating, one was quite creepy. One thing I always use in my rankings and bracket fights and whatever I do to rank certain movies, episodes, whatever, is, for me, what am I more likely to rewatch? I'll have certain ones that will obviously be my favourite, but again, what am I more likely to rewatch? If I just said, right, I'm going to watch a couple episodes of Supernatural, let's pick a couple. Which one of these am I going to rewatch? Which one do I enjoy the most? Out of these two, I want to say, probably unpopularly, I enjoyed Playthings more. Heart was brutal and it was emotional and really hit me in the feels. It did. But Playthings I enjoyed throughout the episode. I loved the twist. Whereas, I liked Heart. I enjoyed watching Sam falling for the girl. It had a brilliant final 5 minutes, maybe. Whereas Playthings, whilst it wasn't as emotionally devastating, for me, it was just more on my wavelength and something that I enjoyed more. So I already feel like it's going to be a controversial choice, but I'm going to go with Playthings. And as you can see here, if you've not watched the last video, the Playthings jumps onto the next bracket fight, so whatever I pick out of these two will jump ahead, and I'll have to pick against these two, and it slowly whittles it down to my favourite. Okay, match 2. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1 is the first part of the series finale. All the psychic people that are left, which we'll get into, get taken to an abandoned town, and essentially we find out that the demon wants to get them to face off one by one and whittle the numbers down until he's got his leader for his demon army. Sam dies at the very end, and I cried. I cried. I was surprised that I cried because I just assumed they're going to say devastating stuff for a series finale, a mid-season finale. But no. Episode 21, Series 2, you got me in tears. Well done, Supernatural. Night Shifter, really spooky story about the skin crawler shapeshifter who was killing people and basically got locked in a bank because there was this guy who was a little crazy but convinced that mandroids were real. He kind of knew about shapeshifters without really knowing what they were and locked everyone in the bank. And that was great. That was like a whodunit. Who's the demon going to be? Who's going to be next? Kind of creepy. I feel like between the two, I'll have to go with All Hell Breaks Loose. Any episode for me that has such a visceral reaction that it gets me to cry, and I don't cry at a lot of stuff, really. I mean, I say that, you could probably do like a supercut of all the times that I cry on my channel now, but not a lot on TV tends to make me cry anymore. I used to cry all the time. And so it takes a lot to get me there, and Supernatural's got me there a couple of times now, so I'm really impressed with that. I think Heart would have done. I feel like the really emotional moment for me was ruined by bad music choice, but that was just my personal opinion. But All Hell Breaks Loose was just so great to see the culmination of everything that we've been waiting for this season. Devastating twists. Ava was evil. Well, not evil, but Ava was a killer and was playing them for this whole episode. She'd been there for months killing people. We know that we finally found out what Yellow Eyes wanted. Sam dies. Ash dies. Crazy emotional episode. Night Shift was brilliant, and it's a shame that I had to get rid of it so early on in the bracket fight. But it's a brilliant episode, and against a lot of other episodes in this season, Night Shifter was easily have been picked as my favourite. But I'm afraid for this one, guys, I'm going to have to go for All Hell Breaks Loose, Part 1. Okay, next in line, Tall Tales versus What Is and What Should Never Be. Tall Tales is pure comedy. I didn't know what to expect going into it, and that's why I'm so happy that no one kind of went, oh, I can't wait to see you watch the next episode, it's so funny. Like, no one gave even a slight hint that what this episode was going to be. So it started off just a creepy story, and then it became Sam and Dean's telling different tales, which was really fun, because we got to see them from their different points of view. And then the alien stuff started, and this guy got abducted by aliens, and I was just confused. And then this slow dancing scene happened, and the second that happened, I was like, that is my thumbnail sorted. Brilliant, so funny, between Bobby just walking and going, you boys are stupid, it's so obvious what's going on here. But from the boys fighting like they were kids again, the two different versions of the episode, the myths coming to life, and the 8 slow dancing aliens. It was just a lot of fun from start to finish. The Trickster was a great demon, and I'm really excited to see when/if they bring him back and what they do with him, because they could bring some really fun stuff into the show with this Trickster demon. But I actually loved pretty much the whole episode. What Is and What Should Never Be is an episode that I was very dubious about going into. I don't tend to love a lot of alternate timeline episodes, unless it's done really well, like in Buffy, with The Wish was so vastly different from what we knew of Sunnydale that it worked. There's a lot of shows that do it, and it's just slight variations on what we already know. This one was different in that Dean was actually living through this alternate timeline, so when he had to choose between this world where his mum's alive, Sam's still in school, Sam's got a fiancé at this point, and obviously him and Sam aren't that close, but that can be mended. He has a normal life, he has a job. Dad's still dead, but he died of something natural, not offering his life up to a demon. His other choice is a world where the mum's dead, their dad's dead. They've both been killed through demon activity. Jess is dead. Him and Sam are very close, but all they do is hunt demons, and God knows what's going on with the psychic kids at this point. And it was great just to watch Dean go through this life and choose not to go along with it, and to, rather than have the mostly easy choice, to go for this life of pain and misery because it's real, and because he knows that he would be leaving Sam alone in that world, which obviously feeds into the finale, which is something that I never really touched on. When I watched the finale, until I was editing things back, I kind of realised, oh, this really does feed into the fact that he is not giving Sam up. No how, no way. And that really does feed into what happens in the final episode. But I liked it. It just isn't my favourite type of episode. I feel like they can be quite cliche and often don't feed into the major narrative. This one was obviously very different. The gin was cool looking, but it's got to be Tall Tales, boys and girls. I just really enjoyed myself here. It was so much fun. An episode that I'm excited to rewatch and have a good laugh with, and we'll probably be thinking about for quite a while. So between Tall Tales and What Is and What Should Never Be, Tall Tales. Okay, Folsom Prison Blues versus Croatoan. Okay, so Folsom Prison Blues, Sam and Dean get themselves put in jail to stop a demon hunt. It's a very simple episode in the basic premise of there's a demon or a ghost that's killing people, we have to go in and we have to stop it. That's all that main plotline goes down to. Where it becomes more interesting is everything around it, from the different characters that we meet in the prison, from the lawyer that comes to their rescue, from the police officers, or the prison officers, which I was convinced were going to go down one sort of route with prison brutality, and luckily it didn't turn out to be that. What it turned out to be was that a hunter was helping them and was a prison guard all along. Thank God. Croatoan, they go to a village, very similar to the Croatoan legend, where there's a demon virus where it starts spreading, everyone's turning into demons and attacking each other, and essentially what happens at the very end of the episode is everyone just disappears, and Croatoan is the only thing left in the village. Now, it's interesting because we find out that Sam gets the virus, but is immune, which obviously, as we're slowly learning more about the demon side of the storyline, is an interesting wrinkle. This was a good episode about who can we trust, who can we not trust, very similar to the bank heist. Between the two, which do I prefer? This is a hard one, actually, because I really enjoyed elements of both. I got really angry in Folsom Prison Blues because of what I expected to happen, which didn't happen. And I really enjoyed the mystery side of Croatoan and who's a demon, who's not a demon, then being holed up in this like little nurse's doctor's office whilst the whole town is outside waiting for them, and then them all just disappearing is really creepy. I think I'm going to go for this one for Croatoan, I think. Because I just got really intrigued by the episode, by this virus, by the fact that they kind of came into it at a later stage. This virus was already taking over the town. They couldn't stop it. They just had to kind of wait things out, and they didn't really do anything to solve the problem. They just had to kind of batten down the hatches and basically pray for daylight. It fed into the overarching narrative of the season. There was the twist at the end where the guy turned out to actually be a demon and kill the driver. Yeah, I really enjoyed both episodes, but I think I enjoyed more Croatoan overall. Okay, next match. Everybody Loves a Clown versus Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Okay, this is an easy one for me, but I'll have a brief little talk about my thoughts here. Everybody loves a clown. There's a creepy clown spirit ghost type thing. I think it's like a demon, if I remember correctly, that disguises itself as a clown who basically appears to children and then waits outside the house so that children invite them in to the parents' bedroom and murders the parents. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Really creepy. Some great imagery in this episode. It really plays on a very primal fear that a lot of people have of a fear of clowns. Where the episode's kind of let down just a little bit is when it actually becomes at the end that it's just a demon disguised as the clown, and the demon's basically just invisible for most of it. That's kind of disappointing. I'd rather it just be maybe a clown that died and then is now now trying to get revenge on children somehow, or the parents because it led to their death, and it is just an evil spirit clown. The actual demon itself was a letdown, but the episode was so creepy and just kind of grossed me out. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, which is a very simple story. A man raised his zombie girlfriend back to life. That makes no sense. A man raised his girlfriend back to life as a zombie, and well, it wasn't even his girlfriend, was it? It was someone that he fancied, yeah. It was someone that he wanted to be with, but she was with like a bit of a douchebag. And when she comes back to life, she starts killing all the people that betrayed her in real life. And it was okay. It was just a very simple episode. It didn't have any big twists or turns. There was no spooky monsters, no creepy parts, really. No interesting imagery. It's just an enjoyable episode of the show, but not a very memorable episode of the show. I would easily say Everybody Loves a Clown, for me, is a stronger episode. Okay, Simon Said versus Crossroad Blues. Let me know down below as well what you're thinking of these matches, what your choices would be in the comments section, and see how different they would be to my choices. Simon Said, the first half of the season was very heavy on the psychic children, or the special children, I think they're called online, and this demon storyline. And this was about the boy who could get people to do what he wanted, hence the name Simon Said. He tells you to go kill yourself, you go kill yourself. At least that's how it came across. There was a twist where it turned out someone else was doing it. It was like his twin brother, and he was just living his life, making some questionable choices, like women he got to sleep with him. But overall, this twin brother was killing people in the other brother's life to get closer to him. Bit weird. But the episode was good and had some good twists, some interesting deaths, and like I say, it fed into the overarching narrative of season 2. As did Crossroad Blues. Crossroad Blues was about a demon, the Crossroad Demon, the very first appearance of a Crossroad Demon. We discovered that you can make a deal with this demon for basically whatever you want, but there's a time limit on the deal. So you say, I want to be a famous surgeon, you become a famous surgeon, but for 10 years, and then the hellhounds will come after you and drag you to hell. I would always say, not a great choice, not a great deal to make. The only one that I found was kind of acceptable was where a man made the Crossroad Demon deal to save his wife from, I think she had cancer. And that one I can kind of understand why people would do it. But just, I want to be a great musician for 10 years and then I'm going to die. It's kind of silly to me. But the Crossroad Demon was really interesting. It started to raise some questions about the future, because it said that you can bring John back rather than stop. They were trying to save this one person from the deal, from the Hellhounds, and they offered to bring John back from the dead. And it really started to raise questions about, okay, it might happen in this episode, but this could be some really interesting twists later on down the line, which I said at the time. Little did I know that Series 1-2 finale, the Crossroad Demon will be making a very important reappearance. Between the two, what do I like, what do I not like? I don't know. Which one do I prefer for this one? Simon Said or Crossroad Blues? I think I had more fun with Simon Said, even though Crossroad Blues was heavier and darker and more important to the overall storyline. I think Simon Said was more of it's as fun as a weird term to use because it was about people committing suicide and whatnot, but I think I enjoyed the twists and turns in that episode a bit more. But I did enjoy the introduction of the Crossroad Demon, the Hellhounds. Now I'm going to go with Simon Said. I'm going to go with my gut instinct that I enjoyed the twist with the twins, watching them trying to stop him and all that kind of stuff. So I think for me, between the two, I'm going to go with Simon Said. Okay, rather than going down the next side, the way the website works is it now narrows down the next list, so we'll do this very quickly. Playthings versus All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. It's easily got to be All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. I enjoy Playthings from really creepy stuff, but All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1 was just emotionally devastating. Tall Tales versus Croatoan. Tall Tales was a laugh from start to finish on the most part. The alien scene is iconic to me already. Croatoan was good and creepy, but this one has really stuck in my memory. It's just a really enjoyable episode. So between the two, Tall Tales. And Everybody Loves a Clown versus Simon Said. Ooh, interesting. This is quite difficult because Everybody Loves a Clown, for me, was really iconic in that I loved the clown stuff. It was so creepy. I'm not afraid of clowns, but creepy clowns scare the crap out of me. And that was great. It was just the final kind of 5 minutes really kind of let things down for me. Simon Said was good, really good. Is it my favourite episode of the season? No. But neither is Everybody Loves the Clown. So I know these two, whatever I pick, are probably not going to make it to the end. My gut instinct is Everybody Loves the Clown because it really had my gut reaction was like, oh, God, I'm creeped out. And if an episode of a show really creeps me out, I'm really impressed by that. I am torn because I do love Simon Said, but my gut instinct says Everybody Loves the Clown. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Okay, All Hell Breaks Loose and Tall Tales Part 1. Oh, good God, this is going to be difficult. Oh, this is hard, because I know a lot of people have already said in the comments Tall Tales was their favourite episode of the season. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. God, that's so emotional and so important with the main storyline. We're starting to reach a conclusion. We started to get answers to the mysteries. Tall Tales was just fun. I think I'm going to go with All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. Don't hate me. Whilst off the top of my head, Tall Tales is one of my top episodes of the season, I think. All Hell Breaks Loose was just what I wanted for so long from the show, from the pilot, basically. I'm waiting to find out what this demon wanted, what was going on with Sam in the crib, why did the mum die, what's going on here, and all these storylines that were brought up in series 1 and 2 were answered between this and the next part. And I just had a great time with it. I enjoyed the twists, I enjoyed Yellow Eyes, I enjoyed Sam's death, is not the right thing to say, but I was really emotionally hit with Sam's death. So between the two, I'm sorry everybody, but I'm going to go with All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1. Now what you can see here is that because there's not enough to do an extra match here, Everybody Loves a Clown automatically moves forward, which makes this episode choice a lot quicker and easier for me. Between All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1 and Everybody Loves a Clown, I've easily got to go with All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1, and that moves on to the final round, as you can see down here. Okay, oh God, on to 2 more emotional episodes. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 and In My Time of Dying. Okay, In My Time of Dying, I'm going to go the opposite way around. It is the season opener. It's emotional. John gives up his life to bring Dean back to life, or to save him from dying, because Dean was basically crossing over to the other side. The Reaper was trying to take him over, but John was not having any of it and gave his life up to Yellow Eyes to save Dean. And it was sad. I was surprised it was sad, so it gets a lot of points from me from that it really shocked me how emotionally reactive I was to John dying. And it wasn't even that John dying made me sad. I've got to admit, it was more Dean and Sam having to deal with the fact that the dad's dead and watching him die, and then the doctor's not being able to bring him back was devastating. The Reaper was good. The ghosts were okay in this episode, but they weren't the most exciting kind of aspect to it. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 was... God, a lot happened in this episode. I'm already going to tell you this episode is going to win over In My Time of Dying, because it's just from almost crying again at Dean's grief at the start to him pushing Bobby away when Bobby's trying so hard to break through. And you can see Dean's really struggling with grief and just won't let people in. And that's so hard for me. That's really emotional to watch. And I just find it quite difficult emotionally to handle. The Crossroad Demon came back. She was brilliant. Ellen's still alive. And then just all the stuff in the cemetery at the end, from Yellow Eyes turning up, from the gates of hell being opened, Soldier being killed, all these demons escaping. Yellow Eyes is killed. John crawls out of a crypt. Sam finds out about the deal that Dean made. I think he didn't even mention the deal that Dean made to give up his life in a year's time. It's just twist after twist after shock after cry after twist after shock after emotional scene. And it's just like, it moves at such a fast pace that I can't not pick this one over that one. I loved this episode from start to finish. I literally felt like it flew by in about 5 minutes. It's so... There's funny moments, briefly, but it's just emotional and scary, and really intrigued now to find out what happens in Series 3. Okay, Hollywood Babylon is the episode about the film set, with the ghosts that are killing people on the film set for the horror movie. Sam and Dean basically work at the film set. Dean in particular becomes a PA to try and find out what's going on. Some really fun moments in this, some funny meta moments like the film trailer, including clips from episodes we've already seen, elements of how they saved the producer guy, with the ghosts and the cameras and whatnot being brought into the movie. Really fun. Roadkill was just emotional. The girl who tried to save her from being killed by Jonah the ghost, we discovered that she's been a ghost all along. For 15 years, she died on that highway. She accidentally killed Jonah, even though I'm still of the opinion that her husband was a big part to play in the accident. And she's been haunting the highway ever since because she can't move on. And having to watch her let go at the end and realise that her husband's still alive. He's got a new wife. She's been dead for a long time. And not only can she not go and speak to him, she just has to move on from her life. And she doesn't know where she's going to go. Is she going to go to heaven? Is she just going to be gone? We just don't know. And that's so hard to watch. But looking against each other, Hollywood Babylon was great. I enjoyed the meta stuff. I know people have said there is a few meta episodes along the way, which I think I'm going to love. I enjoyed the film sets, as someone that used to work in TV briefly. I enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoy the meta stuff. I enjoyed the ghosts that appeared, like the thumbnail that I had here of the black and white lady was really well done. I enjoyed the characters, the actress, Dean being a PA. It was just fun. So for me, Hollywood Babylon. Okay. Bloodlust was the third episode of the show. This is the introduction of Gordon. Ugh. God, I've remembered as well, he's got another episode of Gordon's come. Oh, God. And Gordon's hunting vampires. And throughout the episode, we discover that Gordon is very black and white in his views of monsters. Monsters are evil. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. If you're a monster, you deserve to die. And over this episode, we found out that these vampires are trying their best to lead a normal life. They want to survive. They want to not be hunted. They live off like animal blood, if my memory is correct. And they do their best to live off the grid. But Gordon just sees them as vampires. They have to die. And brings Dean into that by preying on his grief for the dad, and how the dad was killed by kind of basically like demon means, and leads Dean down a dark path. I hate Gordon. End of. Born Under a Bad Sign is an interesting episode. I feel like at the time I had a lot of technical problems that I sorted most of by the time the edit went up, which is good. That I've done a rewatch since of that particular episode just because I knew that I didn't give it maybe the fairest chance, so my head wasn't in it. And it's a good episode. Essentially what it turns out is that Meg has possessed Sam and killed people as Sam, killed hunters, and at the time you believe he's going through all this turmoil. Who have I killed? What's going on? But obviously we find out all along it's Meg. Sam has no idea about the whole thing. And it's really dark, and Jared plays a really good villain in it, as he goes after Joe, and he goes after Dean, and he's just really threatening, but funny at times, like the very Meg character, which is that kind of flirty, but devious nature, which I enjoy about Meg. I actually prefer Born Under a Bad Sign between the two. Not just because I hate Gordon with a passion, but the vampires aren't my favourite villain of the show. I don't find them overly interesting on the most part. Although it was the first episode that really kind of raised the question of, can monsters be good? can we give them a chance? Can they live like normal people to some degree? And that was interesting to talk about. But Born Under a Bad Side, I think, was more of an interesting episode to watch. Watching Jared play this darker side was quite a good thing to watch. Really interesting. Okay, No Exit versus Hunted. No Exit was the story of H.H. Holmes, and as anyone knows, H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who basically built a mansion with lots of traps and stuff to trap people and kill them. And he's still haunting that ground as a ghost, whereas his apartment block is there now, and he kills and traps women under the apartment block. And there's some really creepy imagery in this episode, some really creepy stuff where they're in these weird like tomb cage things underground, and he's like putting his arm through and just kind of stroking them and stuff. And I think for an episode that tries to use the ghost of a real life serial killer was something I was very nervous about, but actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that, and I thought there was some good creepy imagery and creepy moments. Hunted was the return of Gordon, as he started to now hunt down people, and not just any people, but people that he had learned from a demon during an exorcism, like Sam, have abilities, and he obviously sees that as an element of the supernatural, which obviously it is. And being of the mindset that supernatural equals evil, he starts to hunt down Sam and Ava and anyone else that he knows that is a monster. He's killed some people already with special abilities, and he's now going for Sam. I just don't like Gordon. I get why he sees the way he does. He's got a backstory which is basically like his girlfriend or his sister was killed by a vampire, so he's just got this one-track mind. But I just don't like watching his character. I really don't. I can't get on board with him. I don't enjoy it. But the episode was interesting because, again, like the vampire episode, it kind of raised the question of, should we kill these people before they become murderers? Because we know that some of them do become murderers. We know some of them can be murderers quite easily, like the guy that killed his cat. But is that right? Is that enough justification to kill them? Who knows? Actually, between the two, I think I'm going to have an unpopular opinion. I think I preferred No Exit. I enjoyed the self-contained, creepy story, the apartment block atmosphere, which is something I can associate with, living in an apartment block in the past a few times. I enjoyed H.H. Holmes' creepy basement setting. And it just, whilst I appreciate the character of Gordon, I just don't enjoy watching him. I know I'm probably in the minority here. He's just not a character that... I think maybe he's played so well that I just dislike him so much that he just frustrates me. So yeah, I prefer No Exit between the two. Okay, Houses of the Holy and The Usual Suspects. Houses of the Holy was the religious episode of the season about the priest who had come back from the grave, essentially as a spirit, appearing to people as an angel to tell them to kill people who have done bad things. And again, this is like a great moral debate in that he was getting people to kill people that were rapists, were sexual abusers of minors, and other people that should not be on this planet. No matter what you tell me in life, I think the world is a better place without these people on it. But is it right to get innocent people to kill them? No. Getting people to become murderers by killing these evil people, I don't think was right. And it was just a really emotional watching this priest kind of realise that he had a really skewed mindset. What he thought was right was not right. He thought he was a saint. He thought he was an angel. He thought he was an angel doing the God's will, and realising that he'd got innocent people to become murderers and having to accept they had to move on was really emotional. The Usual Suspects was Sam and Dean had been arrested, and about their trying to help the police officers to get out of the jail cells they were in and stuff. And this was interesting. Again, I don't think I gave it like the fairest shot, because I don't love the beginning of the episode where it's like, Sam and Dean are in jail, but why? And we obviously found out that they'd not been framed for murder, but they discovered a body and were there at the time when the body was discovered, when the police came along, and obviously they got blamed for the murder, which is fair enough. But I did enjoy their relationship with the police officers, particularly the main one who helped them, and how she started to experience things and started to believe and help them kind of along their way and during their actual escape. And obviously this is where things really kick into a bit of a higher gear with the whole Sam and Dean on the run storyline, which I didn't really touch on again in this episode on Night Shifter, but yeah, that was really well done as well. Between the two, which one do I enjoy more? I'm actually going to go with Houses of the Holy, even though I'm not a big religious person, and I am dubious when it's an episode focused on religion, because I know it can be distasteful at times, it can be offensive at times, and it can be, depending on the show, it can be pushing a certain agenda, and I don't like that. But this episode was just really difficult to watch in a good way. It was emotional, and I really enjoyed it. But The Usual Suspects, again, was also brilliant. And they're actually both really good episodes, but I think overall I go with the Houses of the Holy. On to the next side, let's quickly get through this, because I think this one's going to be quite easy to get through. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 versus Hollywood Babylon. There's no question for me, it's got to be the season finale. I was almost crying, I was shocked, I was creeped out, there was twists aplenty. Hollywood Babylon was a great episode, a really fun meta look at stuff, and a great girl story. But God, this finale was just... it was a lot, and I loved every second of it. Born Under a Bad Sign and No Exit. Okay, interesting. I think again I'm going to be controversial this time. I would actually go with No Exit, because it's a Monster of the Week episode, and I love Monster of the Week episodes, which this was to some degree. It didn't have a lot of bearing on future episodes, minus the fact that we did get an appearance from Meg, who's not been in Series 1. But overall, there was no major lasting consequences from what happened here. But no episode creeped me out more. I enjoyed the visuals, I enjoyed the setting. Whilst I enjoyed this, I think all the emotions that you have throughout the episode kind of feel a bit redundant once you learn that, actually, you know what, it's Meg all along. So you don't need to feel these emotions, this sorrow for Sam, for the guilt that he's going through, the struggle for Dean not to shoot him, and all this stuff doesn't make any sort of, isn't really important when you get to the end and you discover it's all Meg, which I guess is the point, but I just prefer No Exit. Do I think this is going to get to the final round? No, but I actually prefer it between the two. And as you can see here, House of the Holy has had to move on because there's not another match down below. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2, No Exit, no question it's Part 2, All Hell Breaks Loose. House of the Holy has to move on again. And again, no question between the two. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 versus House of the Holy. I adored this final episode. House of the Holy was good, and just unfortunately with the format, great episodes have to stay far behind, but definitely the season finale was much better for me. Oh God. Oh God. I just realised what this match is. Oh Lord. Oh, this is going to be difficult. Okay, so All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2. Which is my favourite? This is so difficult because essentially they're two halves of a whole. It's all about Yellow Eyes, this town, and Sam finally finding out what the demon's plan was. This is a culmination of 2 seasons of mystery, of questions, of psychic children, from Max in Series 1 to Ava in Series 2 to Andy, from Sam's beginning in the first pilot episode. At the very beginning of the pilot episode with a crib. Finally I found out what that was about. This was the culmination of the 2. So picking which part of the episode I preferred, it's so hard because episode 1 really hit me in the heart with that ending. That was shocking to me. That, not shocking that it happened, whilst it did surprise me, it was shocking that I got so emotional about it, because I knew, even though Sam was dead, that he would be back. Probably in the next episode, maybe at the start of Series 3. So for it to make me cry really shocked me. But the final episode, again, was so much of a roller coaster in terms of twists and darkness, with Sam killing Jake, and all the demons being let loose out of the hell, essentially the Hellmouth, which I keep calling it. And I probably call it that in Series 3, the Hell's Gate. And end of Yellow Eyes. I just don't know how to pick between the two, because I thoroughly enjoyed both parts in different ways. Episode 1 had Ava and the psychic children basically doing, like, we found out it was like a battle royale sort of thing. That was all wrapped up at the end of part 1 on the most part, minus Jake still being alive, which obviously they took care of in part 2. But part 2 focused more on the demon's plan finally starting to come to life, and took elements of it. It did. The demon army, at least part of it, was released from hell. I don't know how much was released from hell, but it looked like a lot of demons got out. Oh God, how do I pick between the two? 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 Do 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 do. I think for pure, constant enjoyment, as well as some emotional scenes that really did make me feel emotional, I think I'm going to go with All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2. Because not just on top of everything that I've mentioned, there's also Ellen's almost assisted suicide. That makes it sound really weird. But when Jake almost gets Ellen to kill herself, there's Bobby and Ellen teaming up with Sam and Dean to stop Jake. Oh, there's just so much good stuff in here. Bobby's great as always. I love Ellen. Finding out she was alive was great. And all the plot lines that are left up in Series 3, while still successfully, in my opinion, closing a lot of plot lines from Series 1 and 2, was great. So between the two, I'd say my favourite episode of Season 2 is All Hell Breaks Loose, Part 2. Before we jump into my least favourite episode, that'll be a lot quicker part of the episode, don't you worry. Let me know down below how wrong you feel like my opinion was, what difference you would have had it, and if you kind of sort of played along with me almost. Because you can do it on a piece of paper if you want, like when I read out a match, put on a piece of paper what it is and slowly narrow it down. See what your favourite is. Let me know what became your favourite and how much you disagree. Okay, I'm going to jump now into my least favourite episode of Series 2. Let's go through it quickly by clicking on everything that I didn't choose the first time. So, Heart I didn't choose. I didn't choose Night Shifter, which is unfortunate because it's a brilliant episode. I didn't choose What Is and What Should Never Be. I didn't choose Folsom Prison Blues. And I didn't choose Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things. Funnily enough, going into this one, I'm really surprised and intrigued to find out... Oh, I didn't choose Crossroad Blues either. I'm really intrigued to find out what my favourite or least favourite episode is, because with Series 1, there was a very clear... People commenting, Bugs is the worst episode, one of the worst episodes of the entire show, definitely the worst episode of the season, I hate Bugs, or I just dislike Bugs. That was quite a common comment that I had. So, I didn't have that, I don't think at all this season. Minus one episode that I can think of, which was Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things, people said was just okay. There was none that people really said were like terrible episodes. Between Heart and Night Shifter, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick a good episode again as my least favourite, which might make future choices easier. I would pick Heart as my least favourite episode because I enjoy Skinwalkers or Shapeshifters. I can always get confused between the two. I enjoy the whodunit aspect. All the storyline with Ron or Ronald is sad when he gets killed, but expected. But the bank robbery with the police outside, Hendrickson's after them, they're on the news. How are they going to get out of this was great. And also, a great musical scene at the end of the episode. Heart was good, but I feel like it was a good episode with a brilliant end, whereas this was a brilliant episode all the way throughout. Really emotional and kind of broke me for a little bit, especially because I watched that a very similar time to watching Roadkill. But yeah, between the two, my favourite is Night Shifter, so I'll have to go for Heart as my least favourite. What Is and What Should Never Be and Folsom Prison Blues. This is quite easy for me. I preferred Folsom Prison Blues. I just enjoyed the ghost story and the prison setting and the characters and Hendrickson again with the lawyer and also the big sigh of relief about the Deacon, the prison guard. What Is and What Should Never Be, again, is emotional. There's a lot of emotional episodes in this latter half of the season. Roadkill, Heart, What Is and What Should Never Be, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2. At least 5 episodes off the top of my head, which are really emotional. But between the two, I just preferred Folsom Prison Blues. What Is and What Should Never Be is not my type of episode. But whilst I did enjoy it, it just wasn't my favourite. Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things and Crossroad Blues. Yeah, I think I agree with the consensus that when people said Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things was okay, it was like an okay zombie story. It was just an okay episode. It was kind of generic, not the most memorable, not a memorable monster, and I don't know, it just wasn't the greatest episode. Crossroad Blues had some interesting elements. Hellhounds were great. Crossroad Demon was great and sowed a lot of seeds for later in the season. So easily my least favourite between the two is Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things. Between Heart and What Is and What Should Never Be, it's become a tradition now. What I will say is one of my favourite parts of Heart is this. And if you don't know what I mean by what's tradition, watch the Series 1 episode of my air fights between episodes to find out my favourite and least favourite. Yeah, my favourite shot, again from Hell House, I think it was the shot of Sam coming out of the shower. So, yeah. Actually, I'm struggling to say what's my least favourite between the two now. Now I think about it more and more. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go for my least favourite is Heart, which makes me sad because it's a good episode. But I keep thinking and remembering more and more elements of What Is and What Should Never Be. Dean willingly choosing to leave his mum behind. That was brilliant. So, yeah, unfortunately, even though it was a good episode, Heart is my least favourite between the two. Between the two of these, it's quite an easy choice between Heart and Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things. It's got to be Children Shouldn't Play With Dead Things. Okay, on to the second half. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2 and In My Time of Dying. Oh yeah, I've got to pick my other ones first. So, In My Time of Dying I didn't pick. Roadkill I didn't pick. Bloodlust I didn't pick. Come on. Bloodlust I didn't pick. Hunted I didn't pick. And The Usual Suspects I did not pick. So narrowing these down, in my time of dying, I really enjoyed the hospital atmosphere, the emotional stuff with the dad. Again, it made me cry. Roadkill almost made me cry. I was close to it, but it didn't hit me as hard as the first episode did. And I enjoyed the Reaper in this. The Yellow Eyes was great in this. And all the family drama makes me prefer this over Roadkill. Roadkill was great, and it was emotional. And I think Season 2 has some really strong episodes. So it's hard to pick my least favourite of the two, but I've got to go with Roadkill. Oh God, it's Gordon versus Gordon. Oh Jesus. Bloodlust and Hunted. Which do I prefer? You know what? I actually preferred Hunted on this one because I like the fact that he was going after humans, which made his black and white moral compass a lot worse than it was in Bloodlust, and a lot harder to get behind, because in Bloodlust I could see elements of it, why he understood it, but in Hunted he was just going from bad to worse. And it was interesting because it brought Ava in. I really enjoyed Ava's character and how, again, that fed into the whole Yellow Eye storyline. And I think neither of them are actually my favourite episodes. They would never be in my top episodes of the season. But I preferred Hunted. I enjoyed Dean Gordon's a really hard struggle for me to say. But I just preferred what was going on in this episode more than Bloodlust. Unfortunately, the way this website works, Usual Suspects has to go forward. Roadkill and Bloodlust, I preferred Roadkill. I was more emotionally invested in the story and almost cried with Bloodlust. I just got angry for most of it. So between the two, my least favourite was Bloodlust. Again, Usual Suspects moves forward. And that's unfortunately what happens with this bracket fight, is on The Usual Suspects. I think it's a good episode, but just because there's no match down here, I have to move it forward and forward and forward. And Bloodlust is my least favourite between the two quite easily. Okay, this is the big one. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things versus Bloodlust. What's my least favourite episode of Season 2? This one's a hard one because neither of them, if I had to think back, are actually really great episodes for me. And it's actually funny now I'm thinking about it. These are episodes 4 and 3 of the season. This season was a strong-ass season. That's what I do when I say that I didn't touch on in the end of Series 2. Series 2 was a strong season. The highs were very high, and the lows weren't as low as Series 1. And there was only a couple of lows. Like, looking on it, there's only these two episodes, probably, really, that I didn't overly like, because they just weren't all that exciting to me. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things was quite generic in its storyline. I enjoyed it, because there's no episodes in the season that I didn't enjoy, like Series 1. I'm actually really impressed with Supernatural. There's no episodes that I can sit there and go, God, I hated this episode. I actually quite enjoyed elements of Bugs. But yeah, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things was just very generic, not very memorable, but okay. Bloodlust, again, the vampires I'm not a big fan of. I don't like Gordon. But it did raise some interesting moral debates about what's right, what's wrong. Should we be killing these people that are trying, or these vampires that are trying not to live like normal vampires? Watching Dean go down this path was hard. So I think, as that one had a lot more to talk about, and the monsters were slightly more interesting to discuss than to watch, my least favourite episode of Series 2 is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Again, here is the bracket fight for my least favourite episodes of the season. Again, show me what you don't agree with, tell me down below. And also let me know down below if you want me to make it public so you can do it yourself. It will just be the pictures of my thumbnails, unfortunately, but I can make it public for yourselves if you want to quickly go through and just quickly click through, find out your favourite and least favourite episodes. Okay, so now I've done that, I know my favourite and least favourite episode of Series 2. Joining Devil's Trap from Series 1, favourite episode from Series 2, All Hell Breaks Loose, Part 2. Now this does raise an interesting question. Are all my favourite episodes of every season going to be the season finale? I don't think so. I don't know though, it could be like a lot of Buffy episodes. Ask me what my favourite episodes of Buffy are. I'll easily be able to reel off about most of the season finales from Buffy will be in that list. So is Supernatural going to follow that trend? I don't know. I'm interested to find out. And joining Bug from Series 1, my least favourite episode from Series 2 is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Now, this wasn't an obvious choice. I mean, maybe if I sat and thought about it beforehand, thought what was my least favourite episodes, it probably would have been one of the ones that would have been in the choices for me, along with maybe Bloodlust and basically anything with Gordon in. yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't a horrendous episode. It just wasn't overly memorable. Quite a generic storyline. And yeah, I think, like I said before, it's really interesting that even though these 2 episodes are my least favourite episodes of series 1 and 2, I do find elements of it that I quite enjoy, and I'm intrigued to know and find out what my least favourite episodes moving forward are. Because on this one, there's a huge part of me, there's a really big part of me that wants to include Tall Tales in this. I'm finding it difficult that it's not there, but I also prefer To Hell Breaks Loose Part 2. I think it's very interchangeable and will change as time goes on. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below what you thought of it and also what your favourite episodes are down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, my name is Scott. Hope you guys are well, taking care of yourselves and staying safe. If you enjoyed it, please let me know down below what you thought and subscribe for future Supernatural reactions. Take care. I'll see you all soon for the next episode of Supernatural. Bye, guys.